Talk about the power of Yoel Romero. The soldier of God is a man who looks and fights like he was made by a science experiment. From dominance in freestyle wrestling, he entered the world of MMA and took it by storm, crushing bones and leaving a trail of unconscious bodies behind on his way to becoming a legendary figure in the sport. But before all of this, he was a poor Cuban boy raised and forged within the Cuban government's experimental system. This is the Yoel Romero story. Born into poverty in Cuba, Romero's childhood was a stark contrast to his current stature. He came from a family of boxers and wrestlers, so he faced a choice between the two sports. In the beginning, I want to make it boxing, boxing, boxing. My daddy, for the family, for my dad, is boxing and wrestling. Although initially drawn to boxing, Romero chose wrestling to follow his father's preference for the sport. I love boxing in the beginning. My dad said no. I don't like it. You make a sport boxing because boxing is too much punches in the face. It's not good. He was taken to the pyramid, a special school system created by the Cuban government to forge soldiers. The people take it when the kid is very young, and go to the special school for sport. This is where sports careers in Cuba typically began, with scouts sorting children into groups based on their talents. Unlike regular schools, the pyramid was no walk in the park. Students had a strict Monday to Friday schedule with housing and meals provided. Everything is by a schedule. Everything is run by a schedule, militaristic. But that's not all. How well you did in sports decided how well you were treated. The top athletes had access to better food, beds, and even got more rest time. This created a sense of thrive or perish in the young Romero. Romero became one of the most successful pyramid experiments, representing Cuba at the 1999 World Wrestling Championships. He became world champion by defeating the 1996 Olympic gold medalist, Kazim Muradmagov of Russia. In the 2000 Summer Olympics, he won the silver medal in the freestyle competition, losing to Adam Savin in the finals. Romero medaled in 5 world championships, only missing out with his 5th-place finish in 1997. With numerous other successful competitions, Romero cemented his position as Cuba's top wrestling talent. He remained a key member of the national team for 15 years until 2007 when everything changed. In the summer of 2007, Romero took part in the Grand Prix of Germany wrestling tournament. As usual, he came out on top, but this time there was something different. Instead of packing his bags to return to Cuba, Romero found himself at a crossroads, contemplating a bold new direction for his life. With dreams of starting fresh and embracing new opportunities, Romero decided to stay in Germany and leave Cuba behind. In Germany, Romero joined the Ringer Bundesliga, a professional wrestling league where teams compete for titles. He competed as a starting member of S. Johannes Nur in the 2nd division. Here, his elite wrestling skills quickly took center stage, and soon Romero was asked to coach his teammates. So he started training the fighters, and the club won and they got up to Division 1. Once he started training, wrestling, From his performances in the league, he began gaining popularity. Around that time, an MMA tournament called Fight of the Night needed a fighter after one of its headliners had pulled out. So they turned to Romero. Romero had been looking for an opportunity to get into MMA before this, so when the offer came, he didn't think twice. His opponent was Sasha Winter, the reigning champion of the tournament. At that time in Germany, there were not many MMA training centers or even proper equipment, so Romero would have to walk into his first MMA fight with no training. The organizers gave him no chance, seeing him as just a sideshow. Romero defied the odds. In just 1 round, he knocked out his opponent. This victory did more than just add another win to his record. It showed Romero that MMA was not just a sport, but his true calling. Romero continued to dominate the German MMA scene, scoring knockouts in his next 3 fights. With 4 wins and 4 knockouts to his name, he started catching the eye of the big leagues. I continued the fight. I win, and I contracted with Strikeforce. In 2011, Romero signed with Force. He faced a tough test right out of the gate. His first opponent was the experienced Rafael Cavalcante, with 10 wins and just 3 losses on his record. Romero suffered his first career loss in this fight. However, before stepping into the ring with Cavalcante, Romero had barely any MMA training. Unlike him, Cavalcante was a seasoned MMA fighter, so Romero saw the silver lining in his loss. He knew that with the right coach and proper training, he could refine his skills and unlock his full potential. More fortune smiled on Romero when the UFC bought and absorbed Strikeforce. Romero became a UFC fighter, training with the American top team. Romero started to refine his MMA skills and prepare for glory. When we were training constantly together, it was just push-ups, pull-ups, squat jumps. He did a lot of body workouts, and he looked like he's a pro bodybuilder. On April 20, 2013, just 10 days before his 36th birthday, Romero made his UFC debut at middleweight against Clifford Starks. In an electrifying debut, Romero connected with a flying knee in the first round, sending his opponent into the shadow realm. This was just a hint of what was to come. With brute strength and otherworldly knockout power, Romero tore through the UFC middleweight division. After an 8-fight win streak with 6 finishes, Romero became the #1 contender for the middleweight title held by Michael Bisping. However, Romero never got the chance to challenge Bisping due to the latter being sidelined with an injury. The show had to go on, and the UFC scheduled an interim title fight with 2 worthy contenders. Firmly established on one side was Romero, and on the other was Robert Whittaker. Whittaker, another top middleweight talent, was riding a 6-fight win streak. This fight was going to be a battle between the toughest men in the division. After a hard-fought 3-round contest, Whittaker edged out the victory. This was the first blemish on Romero's UFC career. But like everyone who faced him, Whittaker didn't leave unscathed. A brutal foot stomp left him with a torn ligament in his knee. Romero got his second chance at the title when Whittaker pulled out from his title defense against Luke Rockhold, allowing Romero to step in and face Rockhold for an interim title fight. The winner of this fight would then face Whittaker in a unification bout. Romero failed to make weight for the fight, ending up 2.77 pounds over the middleweight limit. As a result, whatever the outcome of the fight, Romero would not be getting a title. Still, this didn't stop the soldier of God from marking his territory. In the 3rd round of the fight, he unleashed his hands and sent his opponent to sleep. Probably one of the most unforgettable moments in the octagon followed. After defeating Luke Rockhold, Romero went to him to give him a kiss and say, "I love you, brother." Despite making himself ineligible for the belt by missing weight, Romero's impressive win over Rockhold secured him another title shot. This time he would face Whittaker in a rematch. Again, Romero failed to make weight, meaning automatically he had lost another title opportunity. The fight, however, turned out to be another instant classic, a back-and-forth war, but in the end, Whittaker won by a close split decision. This time the outcome was slightly controversial, with a feeling Romero could have also gotten the decision. The battle won a well-deserved fight of the night. It turns you superhuman, just about, 'cause like when I was punching and kicking him, he felt like metal, like a dude made out of concrete. It was ridiculous. With 3 title opportunities gone in a row, Romero had to go all out in his next fight. But this was a fight that was never going to be easy. Romero was set against Paulo Costa, a dangerous Brazilian middleweight who was undefeated in his 12-fight MMA career. The fight between these two men would go down as one of the greatest 3-round fights in the history of the UFC. After trailing for the first 2 rounds, Romero dominated the 3rd round but could not get the finish. Romero lost by unanimous decision, but his performance in the fight was enough to keep him at the top of the division. Israel Adesanya had just knocked out Robert Whittaker to claim the undisputed middleweight belt and was now looking for a worthy challenger. Costa had defeated Romero, but like most people who faced Romero, he didn't leave the match whole. With Costa out of the picture, there was only one man deserving. Romero, now 43 years of age, knew this would probably be his last chance at the belt, but to him, age was just a number. He came into fight week looking bigger and scarier than ever. At UFC 248, Adesanya stepped into the octagon with the boogeyman. What could have been a totally bad night for Adesanya was avoided because he was smart and chose not to engage in a brawl with the Soldier of God. This made the fight turn out to be a disappointing one. Neither fighter was able to deliver any significant offense. In the end, Adesanya got the judge's decision. This marked 3 losses in a row for Romero. In December 2020, Romero announced his departure from the UFC. After leaving the UFC, Romero signed with Bellator, where he now competes at light heavyweight. He has won 3 of his 5 fights and at the age of 47 continues to do the impossible. Although he never captured a UFC title, Romero's journey cements his legacy as one of the sport's true legends, a physical marvel like no other, the kind of athlete you simply can't overlook.